Good evening. Am I audible? If you can hear me, please let me know. You can show me a thumbs up, all of you, so then I can understand that if I'm audible or not. Am I clear? Hello. Can you hear me, everyone? Am I audible? Can you see me? Can you hear me? Just let me know. Okay. Thank you so much. All right, as we had discussed that today we are going to discuss the literature part, the prose part of the curriculum. Morning I had discussed the Julius Caesar part, and now I'm going to give you an idea about the themes of each and every poem, and I'm also going to talk about the tone and the basic things of for every poem which you should know about. Okay, and please share this video with your friends so that others can also join in. And thank you so much for joining, all of you. Yeah, I can see some names already. You all were there in the morning, I know. Thank you so much for joining once again. Okay, let's begin with the first poem, The Haunted Houses. All of you are really haunted with this poem. There's a lot of anxiety about this poem, right? But trust me, there is nothing to be scared about. It's a very simple poem. You just have to think it in simple terms. Okay, now first of all, what is the theme of the poem Haunted Houses? The theme of the poem is that the poem is about the departed souls, the memories of the departed souls, our loved ones, those who are no longer there, but their memories linger in our minds. And that is what we talk about, the spirits that are always there around us. These spirits are very different from the spirits that we have always read, or we have always heard about. Like usually we think whenever it is spirits, it has to be evil, it has to be terrifying. But these spirits are inoffensive, they don't have any malice. They are basically the memories of the departed souls. All right, please keep on interacting. Do let me know whether you are able to hear, whether you are able to see the video. If there is any glitch or not, just let me know, and please give me your reactions. Good evening, everyone. Please give me your reactions so that I feel motivated, and share this video as much as you can, all of you. Okay, so that is the theme of haunted houses. Okay, I repeat once again, the theme is that the poem is about the memories of our loved ones, people who are no longer alive, but their memories keep on lingering in our minds, and that is all the poem is about. Now, what is the tone of the poem? Now, when you are preparing for literature, you need to prepare the theme, you need to prepare the tone. So I have already cleared what is the theme. Okay, so what is the tone right now? The tone of the poem. Can anyone tell me what is the tone? What is the tone of haunted houses? Yes, no, it is not haunted. What is the tone of the poem? Can anyone tell me the tone? You should have written already. The tone is a gentle tone. The poem has a gentle tone. Yes, very good. It has a peaceful tone, and it evokes a feeling of peace and comfort. That is the tone of the poem. Okay, and it is not at all haunting. So theme and tone of haunted houses, I think it is clear. Okay, secondly, please don't be scared about this poem at all. I repeat once again, I have already cleared this poem multiple times in my short videos. I'll just give a brief summary of it. What is the poem? The poem is about the memories of our loved ones, those who are no longer there with us, but they always keep on surrounding us. They're always around us. They do the small work, they glide, they go for the small errands that they have always been doing when they were there. And they are always around us, just like we are surrounded by an atmosphere. Similarly, they are also around us. The next thing which the poet has also spoken about is that human lives, they are always in a balance. We are always torn like in a dilemma. We always want materialistic things on one hand, and on the other hand we are also having the aspiration to have a better life, to have a nobler life. So every human being is torn, between this kind of a confusion. It is like a perpetual jar of never ending desires and wants. And the poet also tells that where does this influence come from? It comes from some planet, unknown star in the sky. That is one part. The last part of the poem is a little confusing. People think, okay, what is the last part of the poem? The moon is throwing its light, and that light forms kind of a bridge. Now that bridge is trembling. It's not a very firm bridge. So the bridge is trembling, and that is where our fancies, our imaginations crowd. Similarly, from the spirit world also there is a descent of light. Even the spirit world tries to come and connect, so that there's some connection trying to happen between the spirit world and the human world. But that connection is not possible. So always we are, wandering. Our thoughts keep on wandering in the dark abyss, and that connection is never possible. That desire to connect is always there. That is the last part of the poem. Now let us quickly discuss the figures of speech, the poetic devices. Yes, the poetic devices. Now there is metaphor. Let's take this line, perpetual jar. This perpetual jar of earthly wants and aspirations high. That is a metaphor. Okay, then there is one more metaphor. And as the moon from some dark gate of cloud throws over the sea a floating bridge of light. That is also another metaphor in the poem. So perpetual jar, that is a metaphor. Next is the dark gate of cloud where the moon throws the light. That is a metaphor. There are also a couple of similes in the poem. Simile is the easiest figure of speech to identify. As silent as the pictures on the wall, that's a simile, where the spirits are compared to the pictures on the wall. Any comparison with like or as is a simile. And also there is one more, floats like an atmosphere. That is also a simile. Okay, so that is the first one, metaphor and simile is done. Then from graves forgotten they stretch their dusty hands. That is a personification. Good evening everyone. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to explain the last part of the poem. Just give me some time. First I'm covering the theme, the poetic devices, and then if you all have any doubt, I'm going to explain small parts, whatever you all require. Okay, we also have alliteration in the poems, like little lives, that's an alliteration. Then a sense of something moving to and fro. See, alliteration is very easy. Wherever you have repetition of consonant sound, yes, that is an example of alliteration. Okay, please share this video as much as you can with your friends, with your acquaintances, and please share some love so that I feel a little motivated and inspired. Those who have missed the live session for the morning, you all can later on go and watch it on the channel. Many of you are asking me to explain the last para of Haunted House. Okay, I'll quickly go through it. Last para of Haunted House. Just give me 1 minute. Yes. Last para. So from the world of spirits, there descends a bridge of light. Now in the para just before this, the poet has said that when the moon throws the light on the sea, there is a bridge which is formed, which is a floating bridge of light. So there our means the human world's fancies, means our thoughts, they crowd and they try to connect to this kingdom of mystery and night. Okay. Similarly, in the last para, the poet tells that just like our imaginations crowd, similarly from the world of the spirits also, there descends a bridge of light. Just like we have a bridge where we are trying to connect to the spiritual world, similarly, the spirit world also tries to connect with the human world. A bridge of light connecting it with this. So they try to form a connection. over whose unsteady floor that sways and bends. So this connection is unsteady. It is not a firm connection. How it is going to be a firm connection? It is not possible. So the connection is very unsteady. And it keeps on swaying and bending, which means that it's a very unsteady connection. And that is where our thoughts wander. Wander our thoughts above the dark abyss. So what is an abyss? It's a dark place which has got no ending. So the bridge is a shaky bridge. This bridge connects us. Okay. Connects us where? Connects us to the world of the dead. But that connection is always unsteady because humanly such a connection is not possible. Otherwise, always there would be no, demarcation between the spirit world and the human world. Of course, that is not possible. So they try to connect. Similarly, we also try to connect with our loved ones. And the only way we can connect is what? Through our memories. Through the memories of our loved ones. Okay. That's the last para of Haunted House. So I think we can move ahead. Next poem is The Glove and the Lions. If you have liked the explanation, do give a thumbs up. Okay. All right. So in The Glove and the Lions, what is the theme of the poem? What is the theme? Can anyone tell me? The Glove and the Lions. Yes. The theme is about chivalry. The theme is about bravery, and the theme also tells that in true love there cannot be any vanity. True love has no place in vanity, right? So that is the theme of Glove and the Lions. Also, the poet is against the stereotyping of men, where men are always believed to be macho creatures, where always they have to prove themselves in front of their lady love. So these kind of stereotyping the poet wants to break. Right? So that's the theme of The Glove and the Lions. What is the tone of the poem? Yes, pride and vanity. What is the tone of the poem? The tone of the poem is, it has a didactic tone. Didactic means it is trying to teach us something. There's a moral at the end of the poem. So that's the didactic tone. You cannot get important extracts for poems. Those who are asking for important extracts, you have such a small poem. From there, what important extract you can get? You can still ask for important extracts from the play, but from the poem you cannot. You need to understand the poem. You need to know the theme of the poem. If you're looking for shortcut, sorry, that's not the way it has to be done. Okay? All right. We move on to the theme is clear, Glove and the Lions, right? Now let's talk about the figures of speech in Glove and the Lions. First of all, what kind of a poem is this? This is a ballad. There are lots of imageries in the poem. If you remember the place where the lions are fighting, ramping and roaring, the way the poet has described, that's a lot of visual imagery. The tone of the poem Glove and the Lions, that's a didactic tone, which means there's some kind of a moral which is being taught. Okay. All right. So now let's talk about the figures of speech. There is imagery. There's a lot of alliteration in the poem. Ramped and rode, then with wallowing might, then would do wondrous things, great glory. There's a lot of alliteration in the poem. Okay. Then we have simile. Gave blows like beams. Brave as brave can be. There's a lot of similes also in the poem. There is also a paradox in the poem. A paradox means when you have contradictory ideas. Horrid laughing jaws. Horrid means what? Terrifying. Laughing means, of course, when you laugh. So how can something terrifying and the word laughing come together? Okay, yes, I'm going to come to analytical questions of Considerable Speck. Irony is whatever is said, but the opposite of that happens. Okay, whatever has been said, like here, what is the irony in Glove and the Lions? In Glove and the Lions, the irony is when the lady dropped her glove in the lion pit, she expected the man to get it back for her. The man went, got it back for her. What was the intention of the lady for doing so? She wanted to get public adulation. She wanted to get praise. She wanted to get glory. That was her intention when she dropped the glove. There was no love in that. She just wanted to, show to everyone, see, I'm capable. For me, my man has gone and, brought back the glove. She wanted praise and glory for herself. But what did she get at the end of the poem? Did she get praise and glory? No. So that is the irony. The irony is that she gets contempt and she gets hatred. That's the irony of the poem. Okay. So irony is whatever you expect and then the opposite of that happens. All right. Okay. Yes, correct. She wanted validation. All right, we move on to the next poem. The next poem is When Great Trees Fall. Very important poem. When Great Trees Fall. So what is the theme of the poem? The theme of the poem is when great personalities, they die, it impacts each and every one. Everyone is impacted. All right. The strong animals like the lions, elephants get impacted. Similarly, the small organisms, even they get impacted. Now, great trees fall. It is not just great trees, but it is about great personalities. So it's an extended metaphor. And the poem, it begins in a melancholic tone, but then at the end of the poem, there is some inspiring message. The poem doesn't end in a negative manner. The poem ends in a very inspiring manner. What is an inspiration? That we need to move on. We may be impacted with sorrow. We may face all these consequences. Our life may be filled with some vacuum. We may feel very melancholic, but at the end of the day, life has to move on. And the existence of the great soul is a remembrance for us that we need to be better with our day. We need to become better every day. We need to become better versions of ourselves. That's the main message of When Great Trees Fall. That is the theme of the poem. Okay. Now let's talk about the figures of speech of When Great Trees Fall. Now the most important figure of speech in this poem is anaphora. What is anaphora? Now when a couple of lines, they begin in the same way, like when great trees fall, when great souls die, great souls, it's continuously they are getting repeated. Okay, so such poems, such lines, they are known as anaphora. It's very important, but you know that in the boards you'll not be asked like identify the figure of speech. Some lines will be given from a different poem, and this line also may be given. Then you have to maintain a relation between these two lines. All right. Next is repetition. Repetition is there when a word gets repeated. Next is epistrophe. Many people had made this mistake. We breathe briefly, our eyes briefly. When briefly getting repeated at the end of the sentence. Things getting repeated at the beginning is anaphora. Things getting repeated at the end is epistrophe. Okay. So next is alliteration. Again, alliteration is there like after a period, peace blooms. So period, peace is alliteration. So these are the main figures of speech in the poem. Some people are having doubt with great trees fall. Okay, I'll take up that. Fourth stanza. Soothing electric vibration means a new spark of life. Spaces filled with a kind of soothing electric vibration. That means earlier there was vacuum, but now we can sense that new spark of life, that vitality, which motivates us to live our life. So the last stanza of the poem, when great souls die, after a period, peace blooms. That means time heals everything. After a period means after a certain period of time, you cannot continue living with your loss and sorrow, right? So time heals everything. You need to move on, and after a period, peace blooms. So you can imagine that after winter, what follows is spring. So what is spring? What does spring signify? Spring signifies new life, a new spark of life. So similarly, every space is filled with a soothing electric vibration, and our senses restored. Our senses slowly they come back to us. Earlier our senses had become numb, but now they are restored. Okay, and they are never to be the same. Our senses are never going to be the same. Why? Because we understand that things will never be the same. Earlier, with the presence of great souls, our life was different. Now they are no longer there. Our life is again different. But they whisper to us. And what do they whisper? That they existed. They existed. That means these things, they remind us that they existed. They were there and they had an impact on our lives. And death is not going to change everything. Death changes, but is not going to change the entire thing. So the last line, we can be and be better. So that's an inspiration. We can be better. Why? Because they existed. Their existence in the past is going to be a reminder for us to become better with each passing day. That's the last para. I think that's clear. Okay. Now we move on to the next poem, A Considerable Speck. How many of you are having doubt with this poem? All my videos are there on my channel where I've explained everything. If you have been following my channel regularly, I don't think there should be a doubt. But still, if you have a doubt, you can ask on this platform. I would be glad to clear that doubt. And please, I'm not getting those reactions. Please show me your reactions that you are understanding, and this video is being helpful to all of you. I'm trying to do my best to help all of you. Morning also I have done a live session. Now also I'm here because I know many of you must be having doubts. Okay, so please keep sharing your reactions. I want some hearts, some emojis to come in, and I feel motivated when I see that. I can, instantly connect with all of you. Okay, let's move on to a considerable speck. A considerable speck. So, first of all, what is the theme of this poem? The theme of this poem is importance of imagination and creativity. Importance of active, productive mind. Importance of intelligence, importance of creativity. And finally, reverence or respect for life. That is the theme of the poem. Okay, the poet respects life, the poet respects mind, its creativity and its intelligence. That's the theme. Okay, and finally, reverence, respect for life. Now, what are the figures? What is the tone of the poem? What is the tone of this poem? The poem begins in a very languid, slow tone. Later on, it changes to fear and terror when the mind frantically wants to save its life. So there's a change in the tone. Initially, the poem begins in a very casual, languid manner, but then later on, there is a change in the tone. What are the figures of speech in this one? A considerable speck. First of all, the word a considerable speck, it itself is a figure of speech. Considerable means a matter of significance. Speck is a tiny speck, a tiny dot. So it's an oxymoron. Alright, now let's talk about the figures of speech. What are the figures of speech in this poem? There is imagery. Now the main part of the poem is the questions that can come from this poem. Explain collectivistic regimenting love. What is collectivistic regiment? The most important part of the poem. Since most of you are asking me, ma'am, tell us some important extracts. I think if you're doing this poem, you should know what is collectivistic regimenting love. So it is about that people believing in the fact that collective good, when you need to believe in collective good, not individual abilities. Okay, so that is called collectivistic regimenting love. I can't see the chats anymore. Is my voice audible? Can somebody write something? Okay, so collectivistic regimenting love is important here. All right, and this also means that universal acceptance for all members of society, regardless of individual abilities. Did the poet believe in that? No, the poet did not believe in that. The poet did not believe in that. The poet did not believe in herd mentality. He had a mind of its own, and therefore, whenever he saw any creature with its own creativity, intelligence, he respected that. He appreciated that. That is the reason he decided not to kill the mite. Alright, so I think that is what about Considerable Speck. If you all have any doubts about this poem, you all can write in the chat. Okay, now the next poem is The Power of Music. The Power of Music. Okay, this is, what kind of a poem is this? What is the genre of the poem? Can anyone write? What is the genre of the poem? The genre of the poem is, it is nonsensical poem. It is gibberish literature. You may be asked, what is the genre? So you should know it is a kind of nonsensical literature. Okay, and obviously, what kind of a narrative is this? It is a humorous narrative. The poem is also a satire. What is a satire? Satire means when uh, we are criticizing certain aspects of the society. So the poem is also a satire because it hints at the exploitation of Britishers, the way they exploited Indians, and after a lot of struggle, how the Indians finally got their freedom. So the poem can be taken in two ways. Number one is, it is a humorous narrative. It is filled, makes us laugh because there's a lot of exaggeration. And on the other hand, the poem is also a satire. So now, what is the main figure of speech in the poem? Number one is hyperbole. Hyperbole is the main figure of speech where, there's a lot of exaggeration. Exaggeration means like mighty mansions tumbling down, then the welkin weeping. These are like, exaggerated consequences of Bhishma Lochan's song. Am I audible, everyone? Am I audible? Just let me know if I'm audible or not. Okay, so I don't know, I'm not able to see the messages, but I'll continue with it. Maybe after a while I'll be able to see. All right, so Bhishma's song, there is hyperbole, there is alliteration. Okay, then there is personification also. The wretched brutes resent the blade the hour they hear it sounded. All right, so then these are the figures of speech. Mainly we have alliteration, we have hyperbole, and we have personification in this one, Power of Music. All right. After this, we move on to short stories, the prose section. Okay, so in the prose section, the first lesson that we are going to discuss today is with the photographer. So with the photographer, what is the theme of this lesson? What is the theme of this lesson? The photographer in the lesson, the main thing is that we need to accept the way we are. We need to embrace our flaws. We need to be original. We should not be copycats. We should not try to live in the world of filters and plastic surgery, because that is like, running away from our own selves. So therefore, photographer is reminding, the lesson reminds us that the way God he has created us, we need to embrace that, and we should be proud of that. We should not try to distort our images. We should not try to distort our looks. Body shaming is again an important theme of the story. All right. So why was the photographer angry? He was angry because the image, the photograph which he received, was not at all the photograph that he actually wanted. All right. Was the way he reacted, was it justified? Of course it was justified, because as I told you that we need to embrace the way God has created us. We need to be proud and we need to be original. We should not be suffering from any kind of insecurity. Am I audible, everyone? Okay. After this, we move on to the elevator. Now, elevator, what happens is, now every lesson, every poem, the introduction is very important. So in the elevator, what is the theme? Irrational fears of childhood. Okay. Next is an insensitive father. In this lesson, there's also a stereotyping that men should be brave. They should also always be strong. They're not supposed to cry. See, many of your lessons, you have the same kind of a thought process of breaking the stereotype. In this lesson, elevator also, there's a breaking of stereotype that Martin, he is supposed to be brave. He's supposed to not to no, he should not cry, should not break down. His father scolds him. When he sees his son getting scared, his father scolds him, which is incorrect because his father is insensitive. Okay, so that is the theme of the lesson, the elevator. Next, we move on to the girl who can. What is there in the girl who can? Girl who can, again, we are breaking the stereotype. Girls are supposed to be only fit for, being a mother or a wife. It is as if, they don't have any other roles in the society, but that is wrong. Okay, so girl who can, similarly, there is a breaking of stereotype. A Joa is a girl who is always, humiliated because she has very thin legs. Her grandmother feels that she's good for nothing. She's not going to have a child anytime. So therefore, the grandmother always keeps on humiliating her. Shuts her mouth. She's not able to speak out her heart. But then Joa is a girl who loves to go to school. Arjo is a girl who loves to run. She participates in the competition. She wins the prize. And when she wins the prize, we see a change in the grandmother. So the grandmother is probably, she's also suffering from some age-old traditional thought process where she thinks that girls are only supposed to be in this particular way. Okay. Next, we move on to the pedestrian. The pedestrian is a story where the story is set in a futuristic city where what happens is Leonard Med is arrested. Why? Because he has regressive tendencies. He goes out for a walk, he loves nature, he doesn't have a TV at home. So these kind of tendencies which he has, it is believed to be regressive, and that's the reason he's arrested at the end of the story. So what is the story all about? The story is a wake-up call for everyone that we should not be too glued with technology. We should not be always, absorbed with television. We should connect with human beings, because at the end of the day, we are all human beings. We should remain connected. We should be social. We should be human. Right? So that is what the story is all about. The last lesson, in the last lesson, what happens is we need to know the backdrop of the story. The Franco-Prussian War. You may get a question. What is the backdrop of the last lesson? So the Franco-Prussian War, where what happened is Prussia had won, and what happened is there was a treaty that was signed, and as a contract of the treaty, France had to give away its territories, Alsace and Lorraine, to Germany. And due to that, the subject French will no longer be taught in schools from the next day when the story begins. Instead, Germany would take over this place, and the language of German would be taught. All right. So here, what is the main theme? The main theme is that language, the importance of one's own language and culture. We should always be connected to our language. Language is a key to a person's freedom. And a very important theme also is that we should never procrastinate the value of learning. We should never put off, we should never delay it. Like how the villagers did, they always delayed their learning because they thought that, okay, maybe we'll do it some other day, but it never happens. So you only value something when you are about to lose it. That is a tendency of human beings. Okay, so character of M. Hamel is important, and character of Franz is important. Franz, though he begins in the story, in the beginning of the story, is a very childish, immature boy, but then when he moves towards the end of the story, he is mature, he understands the importance of language and culture. Okay, he feels bad, he regrets that why did he waste so much of time. So I think I have covered everything in a nutshell. Any questions? I'm sorry, I'm not able to see the questions. I don't know, there is some problem. I can't see the questions. I really don't know what is the problem. Can you all hear me? No, I don't know what is the problem with it. Here it is showing a Geo. Were you able to hear me, whatever I have said? I really don't know. Can you hear me, all of you? Am I audible? All right, I'm going to end the session. I don't know whether you all were able to hear or not. There was this glitch. This video is going to be there on the channel. If you have a doubt, you can always look and have a idea about it. Thank you so much for being here. Bye.